I'm now joined in the studio by Derek Grossman, Professor of International Relations at the University of Southern California. Derek, what a pleasure to have you in the studio with me. Thank you so much.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Great to have you too. So we just heard from Mark Carney there, and China and Canada have agreed to properly resolve economic and trade concerns after years of strained relations. Why have both countries decided to pursue this avenue now?
Well, the obvious answer is that relations between the U.S. and Canada are very strained right now. When I listen to the Prime Minister speak about Canada's relationship with China, he's saying it's more predictable. Essentially, it's more stable than Canada's relationship with the United States. And of course, President Trump has called Canada the 51st state. He has been quite derogatory toward our good friend in the North, and that's now resulting in this strategic shift in Canadian thinking. This is the first time a Canadian Prime Minister has visited China since 2017. Now, it may have happened regardless, right? But I think the language we're hearing from the Prime Minister is certainly aimed at the White House and at Washington.
And it's so interesting because we talk about Donald Trump and we talk about the tariffs that have been put on Canada and how strained that relationship has become, even though they just literally over the border and they're the biggest trading partner, if we think about it. But US tariffs have hit both the Canadian and Chinese economy. As you said to me, Mark Carney, the first Canadian to visit Beijing, Prime Minister since 2017. That's a really long time. Is this Canada showing the US, listen, Donald Trump, you might have put tariffs on us, but we've got options?
Absolutely. And I mean, that is frankly the name of the game in the international system, right? To not be overly dependent on one country, right? To diversify your foreign relationships so that when something goes wrong with one or two or three, you have others to rely upon. And that is the case among, all successful countries in the international system.
But it's been so fascinating because you and I are talking right now about Canada and China forming closer strategic partnerships. We're also going to be speaking about India in a minute. But it is fascinating how quickly things are changing. And I was just wondering where this leaves the US in the whole puzzle as they become more protectionist and other big global economies look for different partnerships.
Yeah, well, the kind of unfortunate and maybe ironic thing is that the U.S. Promoted the globalization, right? Promoted free trade decades ago. And now we have retrenched into this more protectionist, America first mode. And that is, I think, going to have real consequences, right? You can't find a country out there that's happy about the universal tariffs of 10%, let alone the reciprocal tariffs of varying percents levied against them, right? And so countries like China are going to have a much easier time now engaging with countries who normally would be closer with us because they're offering, again, stability and predictability.
But it's interesting because Donald Trump will say it's leverage. Tariffs are leverage to get a deal done because he's the deal man. But Derek, India is said to be winding down operations in Iran's Chabahar port. And this is amid crushing US sanctions because, Donald Trump did say anyone doing business with Iran would have a 25% tariff put on them. What does this mean for New Delhi's $500 million investment in Iran?
Well, I mean, India is scrambling right now to try to get essentially to see if they can continue to do business at Chabahar between now and I believe the deadline is April 26th. That was the exemption that originally was given to India almost 6 months ago. And so this is a real problem, right? India has spent a lot of money developing that port. And they don't want to lose access to it. But at the same time, they're in the process of repairing the relationship with the United States. It was a horrendous summer between the US and India. President Trump had a lot of negative things to say about India, also was fostering ties with India's archenemy, Pakistan. And so there's all of that to consider. Plus there's 25% reciprocal tariffs, 25% punitive tariffs. So it's 50% already for India. And if this one hits with Iran, it'll be another 25%. It's 75%. Really an untenable situation for New Delhi.
So you think right now New Delhi's thinking looking at its different options to almost make sure that it keeps the US on side. But if we talk about that, New Delhi and Tehran have been strategic regional partners, and they've had deep historical ties, and a lot of it's been shaped by geography if we look at a world map. What impact has this unrest in Iran had on India? And if we do see a possible change in Iran, how will that affect India?
Yeah, it's an open question, but there's certainly jitters on both sides, right? So we saw the Iranian foreign minister cancel his visit to India recently because of what's going on, the protests in Iran. But the foreign minister held a phone call with India's external affairs minister, and they said that it was a productive conversation. So, I mean, they're trying to see what avenues they can continue to keep open. But to your question about, if the Iranian regime winds up not existing anymore, then it'll be very unclear how India and the U.S. and really the international community handles that new situation. But I will say this, India is very, very pragmatic in its foreign policy, and it tries to engage with everyone regardless of their ideology or their political views on different issues.
So you think India will go down the diplomatic route when it comes to dealing with the situation? But just one final thought. When it comes to the US and India, we talked about the terrible summer that the relationship did suffer. Can we see any sort of, I don't know, coming together when it comes to that relationship and sorting out the trade deal, which appears to have almost stalled?
Well, I mean, my understanding is that the bilateral free trade deal is essentially done. And now it's a matter of Prime Minister Narendra Modi calling President Trump and discussing it. And so that, I think, has rubbed the Indians the wrong way, because it's kind of like, you need to come to us before we can get this done. But that is a Trumpism, right? He likes to be in the spotlight and have everyone come to him. So that is a hang-up, but I don't think it's insurmountable. And I do think, in the end, Trump likes policy deliverables. And if we can get that in place, then you might even see Trump visit India within the year.
Well, we'll wait to see. And if he does, definitely come on the show to talk to me about it.
Will do.
Derek Grossman in the studio, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.